Hey, true crime fanatics, this is Claire.
And I'm Andy.
You're tuned in to the Homicide Hobbies podcast, which is a podcast for people who love to hear about the horrendous crimes that people commit. Enjoy.
It's kind of long. It just depends on how distracted you get.
You're the one telling it. Don't tell it confusing, and I won't have a whole bunch of questions.
All right. So this is my Thanksgiving case. So happy Thanksgiving.
Oh, wait, no.
All right. So happy Thanksgiving. Because it's Thanksgiving, I'm bringing you lots of guesses, Claire.
Oh, no.
Today's case will involve 3 deaths in 3 states, so you get lots of places to choose to guess, okay?
So you're just going to give me hints of everywhere?
Well, we're going to do one place at a time. I'm not going to just tell you 9 hints and be like, all right, name them.
Yeah, that's good. Like, I don't know how I'm supposed to be like, guess the 5 states.
No, so the first state up is America's first gold rush was triggered by a young boy who was playing hooky from Sunday school. In 1799, Conrad Reed decided he'd rather go fishing than recite Bible verses. As he dipped his little line into Little Meadow Creek into Oak Creek. So as he dipped his line into Little Meadow Creek, he spotted a large glittery rock. His father was less than impressed by the 17-pound specimen.
My God.
Yeah, and this little boy lugged that shit home, and the dad used it as a doorstop for 3 years before showing it to a local jeweler.
How many years?
For 3 years, it was a doorstop.
That's kind of funny because it makes me think of when you were washing your youngest pants and like, you have rocks in your pants. So you're going to need to start, breaking out your little, what's that little eye one that they use for jewelry?
Yeah.
Taking a peek into that.
When he was riding his bike and I was running, he stopped, like hit the brakes, left a skid mark that was like 6 feet long, jumped off his bike, and I was like, what's wrong? He's like, that was a shiny rock back there. And he put it in his pocket.
There's a piece of glass. Keep going.
Well, and then it was just like, I try to tell myself when the kids are with me, I just need to be patient. I'm not racing anybody. It doesn't hurt to stop. But anyway.
How's that going for you?
Weekends, I don't get good runs. But anyway, so any guesses on the first one? You said California.
Yeah, I say California. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Not it.
No. Well, that was rude.
It takes a special spud to make
Idaho.
To make the grade for companies like Frito-Lay, Utz, and Wise. All 3 of these famous snack companies and a host of others source a mini good of their prize potatoes from farms in the state. The state produces more than 200 million pounds of potatoes each year.
I already said Idaho.
No. This is one of the only places where the Venus flytrap grows naturally.
Your house?
I don't even have a smart-ass response for that. But no.
It worked.
State numero uno is North Carolina.
That was close.
Not even. You're quite literally on the opposite coast.
Yeah, whatever. The Carolinas do potatoes?
Yeah.
Who knew?
Apparently people in North Carolina.
Are you sure that fact is right?
Yes, I'm sure.
I drove through Idaho one time. I was behind a potato truck.
Really?
Apparently it's not uncommon.
North Carolina is also far better known for its sweet potato production, which I also did not know they did. So, yes, that fact is correct, ma'am.
What kind of potatoes?
I didn't look up the specifics.
Well, you said also sweet potatoes, which made me think, okay, so then Idaho is the Russell potatoes?
I don't know.
Maybe it's like the little golden ones.
I'd like to point out that I said it depended on how long you got distracted for.
Well, you gave me weird facts.
That's the purpose of this. Anyway, so this might be the second state we discussed today, but it's a state that claims many firsts. They claim the first hamburger, the world's first
Ohio,
the world's first functional nuclear power submarine,
Illinois,
the first helicopter, the first phone book. They also had the first speed limit laws in the United States in 1901 at a whopping 12 miles per hour.
Well, it's not Florida.
All right. So since you named like 50 states while I was talking, all of them also incorrect. State numero dos is Connecticut.
What? Are these right?
All right. The final state we'll discuss had the first pizzeria in America in 1905. This place was once the nation's first capital, and this place has the most linguistically diverse city in the world with over 800 languages that are spoken.
Maryland.
New York.
Oh. I don't know that your facts were right.
Okay. So you know how a lot of families are dysfunctional? Some argue at dinner. Others never return Tupperware.
Others argue in podcasts.
Some steal eyeliner and mascara through magical portals.
Mm-hmm. You know who you are.
Then there's the Pladl family, who turns dysfunction into a full-blown Shakespearean tragedy if Shakespeare wrote true crime with restraining orders, court filings, instead of sonnets.
I think he lacked more of like the murdery suicideness.
So today we're diving into the disturbing, surreal, and deeply sad case of Steven Pladl, his ex-wife Alyssa Garcia, and their biological daughter Katie Fusco. This story is one of the most chilling collapses of family boundaries you'll ever hear about. Claire, you might want to take notes, but for everybody else, I'll do my best.
Oh, well, fuck off.
I'll do my best to keep telling you who these people are as we go, so you don't have to try to remember, wait, who's that? So up first, I'm going to tell you about Steven Pladl. He was born in New York, April 6th, 1975. His childhood, let's just say the phrase, he didn't have a chance, gets thrown around a lot, but for him, it actually applies. There's reports from those who knew him that suggested neglect, violent tendencies from a young age, and seething anger that never found a healthy outlet. Instead of seeking therapy for Steven, he found control. He used control over animals at first, and he was known to torture and kill critters when he was a youngster.
Ew.
He was often teased at school, not for just being strange, but mainly because he wore the same hockey jersey every single day. And not like he owned several. No,
It was the same one.
he wore the same stinky, smelly shirt every single day. His classmates thought he was just, kind of an odd feller. By his late teens and early 20s, Steven's instability was obvious. He was socially isolated. He had a volatile temper. He seemed to be incapable of empathy. Steven hid behind a keyboard for a lot of his socializing, and that was when, in 1995, he began chatting with Alyssa Garcia. She was born in 1980 in San Antonio, Texas. She was 15 and perusing different internet chat rooms in search of love
Ew.
when she began chatting with 20-year-old Steven Pladl. So Steven convinced Alyssa to keep their internet relationship a secret from her friends and parents because they wouldn't approve of their love.
Yeah. How old is he?
He's 20.
She's
15.
Just double checking on my brain hole math.
After a few secret phone calls and some spicy IMs,
Ew.
or as they're referred to now, DMs,
I think they can still be spicy, but
Steven couldn't take the distance between them any longer, so he traveled from New York to Texas to go meet his prey. I mean, his child girlfriend. I mean, his internet girlfriend.
I don't understand the 20-something-year-olds having anything in common with a teen.
He's looking for somebody he can control.
Well,
He can boss her around. Apparently, the ladies his own age are like, you smell. At that point, 20-year-old Steven began having a sexual relationship with 15-year-old Alyssa. Alyssa's parents were livid and forbid her from talking to Steven anymore. And you know that lovely 1990s parental catchphrase, not under my roof?
yeah.
Well, that's what Alyssa's parents attempted.
Well, that means it's going to be in the car.
Steven, being older and controlling, wasn't about to be told who he can and can't talk to, especially by some girl's parents.
How about the law?
Away he went. He traveled again from New York to Texas, this time to whisk Alyssa away. They ran from Texas back to New York. He knew how to isolate her. It's a classic abusive setup. He cut off her support network, dictated her every move, and weaponized her fear as a leash. Once Steven had Alyssa isolated, the outbursts of abusive behavior began. Not only was Steven verbally abusive, but he also became physically abusive. In one instance, Steven took out his temper on the neighbor's cat. He had found it in his garage. So he violently beat the cat to death.
Oh.
Then on another occasion, he beat another cat nearly to death. Steven had also developed an obsession with collecting firearms and other weapons. Steven wasn't just a run-of-the-mill control freak. He was a walking worst-case scenario, a PSA for running off in love while so young.
Well, it is a PSA for when you're running away with somebody you shouldn't have been.
Yeah.
But I can get behind being a teenager who doesn't want to do what they're told. So
Yeah.
you tell them no, they just want it more.
Mm-hmm. He wouldn't let her cut her hair.
Oh.
He screamed at Alyssa for breathing wrong.
Was it like a booger whistle?
Maybe. And once he locked her in a room for hours, put her in timeout. No matter how much she feared Steven, she couldn't just leave him. He had successfully driven a wedge between Alyssa and her parents. They were not on speaking terms, and by the time Alyssa was 16, she found out she was pregnant with Steven's baby.
Ugh.
Steven refused to work. He would have one excuse or another for not staying at whatever job he'd started. So it was up to Alyssa. She had to work, and she worked hard. Alyssa worked several jobs to prepare for her growing little family. In 1998, now 17, Alyssa gave birth to their beautiful baby girl, who they would name Denise.
Is she still estranged from her parents?
So she reached out to her mom after she gave birth to her daughter, and they had at least a semi open line of communication, but it wasn't like
Yeah, they still don't.
she could have run home.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not the same. It was more, this is the life you chose. Now you,
Enjoy your struggle.
uh-huh. She had their baby. They named it Denise. Except there's one problem. Steven became even more volatile than ever. Steven would regularly throw furniture, punch holes in walls. His physical violence wasn't just directed at Alyssa anymore, but it's now directed at their infant Denise. Alyssa was stuck in an awful position because Steven
Won't work.
still refused to work, meaning
She's got to leave her baby alone with that lunatic if they want to eat.
exactly. He was a stay-at-home dad, and stay-at-home dadding did not suit Steven. He would fly into a blind rage whenever he would hear Denise cry. He would leave welts and bruises on the infant. He would cover Denise's mouth with his hands to muffle her cries.
Oh,
He insisted he could train their wailing daughter to stop crying by pinching her.
that seems like that's how you train her to cry.
I think he was attempting like a Pavlovian response of like, he expected a newborn to learn, if I cry, I'm going to feel this pain. If I cry more, the pain
That
intensifies.
is not how the Pavlovian thing works.
I understand that. But he thought for sure that if he pinched her every time she cried, and the harder she cried, the harder he'd pinch, that she would eventually learn if she cried, she was going to feel that pain.
Hmm.
If she cried even more, he would place her into an insulated cooler and close the lid, sealing it shut. And once she's closed in the cooler, refuse to let her out unless she stopped crying. Now, mind you, she's a freaking infant. And the only reason the baby would cry was probably because she was
Hungry? Any of the things babies cry about?
right. And instead, he'd pinch her and then stick her in a cooler. And eventually, her screaming would stop. But it was because she became so oxygen deprived, she'd be at risk of suffocating. She would be drenched in sweat and exhausted. And only then would little baby Denise be removed from the cooler. He also would bite his infant daughter, Denise, hard enough to leave marks, bragging that it would toughen her up. Alyssa, she would threaten to leave Steven, but she lived so far from her family, and I think also her teenage pride wouldn't allow her to do the whole tuck tail and run and go home. And it didn't help that later, Steven would sit Alyssa down in front of him while he pressed a gun into his mouth, telling her he'd kill them both if she ever tried to leave him. So Alyssa, fearing for her and Denise's lives, did the only thing she could think to do. She backed Steven into a corner and forced his hand into agreeing to give their now 8-month-old daughter up for adoption,
Mhm.
which Stephen agreed to. And it's probably the only kind
That's
thing Stephen ever did for his
I
daughter.
was gonna say that that seems to be the only kindness. Well, how old is she at this point? Still a few months.
She's 8 months. I think Alyssa threatened jail because of the marks he's leaving on this baby. Like he was pinching her so hard that he was leaving welts and bruises on her little baby skin. I don't know how you can be such a piece of shit and hurt a child.
Mm. Well, if they don't find a fix it to the cause, they're just gonna have another.
Right. Little baby Denise was given a fresh, loving, safe redo at life when she was adopted by the Fusco family. Kelly and Anthony Fusco were from Dover, New York, and they changed Denise Pladl's name to Katie Rose Fusco, a new name for a new start. And for the remainder of this case, I will refer to Denise by her new legal name, which is Katie Fusco. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Her adopted father, Anthony, was a retired correction officer from the Federal Correctional Institute in Danbury, Connecticut. Her adoptive mother, Kelly, was a secretary, and they also had a biological daughter. After giving their daughter, now Katie, to Kelly and Anthony, Alyssa and Stephen returned to what was their norm. Alyssa walking on eggshells, working as many hours and as many jobs as she possibly could, all while Stephen bounced between being unemployed and having adult-sized temper tantrums. Now, this is where I bring attention to domestic violence. Sadly, I feel like most have experienced some sort of domestic abuse in some facet of our lives. Hopefully, everyone who's experienced violence has either learned to do better or has managed to escape that toxic situation. Not everyone is that lucky. For Alyssa, I get it. She was so young. She ran away with a man who she thought would love her, but Stephen only cared about himself. Alyssa, I think, became accustomed to dealing with Steven's outbursts to the point of it was just kind of expected for his mood swings. And it was just like the baseline of their relationship of not knowing what mood he's going to be in.
Yeah.
She seemed to want to believe him when he did his typical abuser, "I'm sorry, I won't do that again." And she thought that she could love hard enough for the both of them to make their relationship work. Sadly, Alyssa decided maybe agreeing to marry Steven would help settle his rage. So in 2006, Steven and Alyssa became Mr. and Miss Pladl. In 2007, they had another daughter. And another daughter was born in 2012. The dynamics did change a bit. The Pladl family packed up and moved to a small town just south of Richmond, Virginia. Steven, while still temperamental and still having violent outbursts, he acted more like a pal with his daughters rather than a father. So he didn't really parent.
He was hanging out.
Yeah.
He was there for the snacks.
And as long as Alyssa did all the parenting and all the working,
he was fine.
Steven was good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now that the girls are old enough, she doesn't have to really count on Steven. So she's just trying to hold everything together on her own. But everybody in the Pladl household walked on eggshells around Steven because his mood would change so quickly. And on one occasion, Alyssa was able to come home. This is before the girls obviously were in school. But Alyssa was able to come home early from one of her jobs to find their 3-year-old daughter standing in the bathtub soaked with urine. She had been forced to stand in the tub for hours, covered in urine, as punishment for having an accident. While it wasn't beatings, it was still neglect and it was still abuse. Alyssa would express her desire to divorce Steven, and he would threaten to blow his brains out and force Alyssa and their girls to watch.
I'm fine with that.
I think he also threatened the girls, and since he was so temperamental, she just didn't know what she was going to get into. Meanwhile, their daughter, they had given up for adoption, Katie, her upbringing was described as regular without noticeable incidents. By all accounts, she was smart, artistic, and warm. She was a young woman with her whole life ahead of her. Katie was a cheerleader in her high school. She was loved and happy. She adored cats, which I found ironic since her dad's just killing them left and right. And quite often, she would find a stray and rescue them. She loved animals so much that she became a vegetarian. She went on to graduate from Dover High School in the spring of 2016. She was enrolled at the Dutchess Community College to study art to work in online advertising beginning in the fall of 2016. So this is the summer after she graduates. Like she's enrolled in school or college. This is what her plan is.
Yeah, she's on her way.
Yeah. So her plan was to knock out her core classes at the community college before transferring to the University of New York to study digital advertising.
Are you telling me these trains are going to collide?
I am telling you these trains are going to collide because now 18, like a lot of adoptees,
she wants to meet her folks.
She wants to know more about her biological parents, her real family, so to speak.
You don't. Especially, I could see it if she found out she has other siblings, because then for me, it'd be, why did I go?
So you're right there. You're on the cusp of what we're about to discuss because I think she was expecting it to be a Hallmark moment filled with love and overwhelming happiness. But spoiler, this turns into a Lifetime horror movie, quite literally. There is a Lifetime movie about this family, and we'll discuss that at the end. But it was the summer of 2016. Like I said, it's between her graduating high school and starting college. Katie's 18. She reached out to her biological parents on Facebook, and Steven and Alyssa Pladl were like, "Holy shit, this is our little girl." And after several exchanges on Facebook, they decided to go ahead and meet in Knightsdale, North Carolina, where Steven's mother lived. Katie travels from Connecticut to North Carolina, and Alyssa and Steven, from what I gather, they still lived in like south of Richmond, but they still went to North Carolina. I suspect it was so grandma could meet the little girl, or I guess she's not so little, but so she could meet Katie. But Katie was surprised to learn her biological parents, Alyssa and Steven, were still together. Not only are they together, but they're married and have more kids. She not only got to meet her bio mom and bio dad, but now she also met her 2 younger sisters. The visit went so well and the familial connection just felt so natural that 18-year-old Katie decided she wanted to put her college plans on
No.
hold and move in
No.
with her bio dad, who's now 42 years old, Steven, and bio mom, 36-year-old Alyssa, and her 2 little sisters. Katie's adoptive parents, Kelly and Anthony,
We're horrified.
so I feel really bad for them. They didn't agree with her decision. However, I think they only went along with it because
So they don't lose her.
yeah, they feared losing her to a biological connection, which has got to be an awful feeling.
Yeah. I mean, that's their daughter.
Right. They raised her for the last 18 years. So, talk about a slap in the face.
They probably, I would imagine, they would know that day was coming, though.
Yeah.
It's always going to be closer than it feels.
Yeah. Well, almost immediately, the dynamics shifted. Alyssa and Steven's marriage was still very rocky. They didn't even share a bedroom anymore, but they were excited to have their daughters all under one roof. However, with Alyssa moving in, Steven had to go from the room he was sleeping in to sleeping on the couch so Katie could have her own bedroom. Bio mom Alyssa told Katie about the abuse Steven had put her through when she was an infant, and that was the reason why as a young teenage mother, she did the only thing she thought she could do to keep her innocent baby safe was to put her up for adoption. Katie didn't seem to care. If anything, it seemed to strengthen the bond between the father and daughter.
What?
Yeah, I think Katie looked at the situation like most people would. If Steven was so bad, after they gave Katie up for adoption, why didn't Alyssa leave? Why did she not only stay, but she married him and had 2 more kids if he was such a terrible guy?
I'm wondering that too.
I guess if you understand where Alyssa was at,
I sure don't.
then you understand. And if you don't, then you're one of the lucky ones and you just are never going to get it. I think she got so accustomed to Steven's, what would be a red flag for anybody else, his abusive behavior, the violent outbursts. It became such a regular occurrence that it was no longer a red flag, if that makes sense.
Mm.
You figure at this point, she spent more years dealing with his outbursts than without. She's 36 years
So
old
I got
and she's been
the,
with him since she's 15.
but I get the when she was there when with the baby and everything, but she had a small window of opportunity before she started cranking out more of them.
Yeah. I think she just thought that he would get better, and I'm sure there were times that things were good. I think it's very easy to be comfortable with the one you're with and want to see the good in them when it is good and believe them when they're sorry.
I don't know. I feel like once you've bitten a small child, I can't not see
Yeah.
Cujo.
That's true. I think that also has a lot to do with her age at the time. I think her being so young,
Mm,
I think it was too easy for her to make excuses for his bad behavior.
clearly.
But anyway, bio dad, Steven, went into full predator mode. He grew out his hair, he grew a goatee, and began dressing like a teenage boy band reject. He mimicked Katie's fashion
Oh,
and her style
down to the high heels.
as if he was auditioning to be her pal, not her father, which didn't seem alarming to Alyssa because he was already a pal to their younger 2 daughters. So Alyssa just figured Steven was trying to
Mm,
find a way to bond with Katie. But in reality, Steven was grooming Katie. He broke her down, made her dependent, and convinced her their bond was something more than paternal.
ew.
Instead of sleeping on the
No.
couch, Steven began
No. No.
sleeping on the floor next to
No.
his adult daughter, Katie's bed.
No.
By 2017, Katie and Steven weren't playing catch up on lost time anymore.
No.
Steven, with his audacity set to maximum,
Andrea?
convinced Katie of what she was feeling towards him was true
What
love.
the fuck,
The
Andrea?
father and daughter began engaging in a sexual relationship. Oh, and Alyssa, Steven's wife and Katie's biological mother, she was still living under the same roof when this incestuous relationship began. Alyssa knew her husband and daughter had an oddly close relationship, but she never suspected they were having sex.
How you thought like the bed was just randomly squeaking?
Well, I think it's one of those it's too awful to be true because it's your freaking daughter. Kind of like all your no that you just did.
I thought you were just fucking with me.
Sure wasn't. Alyssa finally had enough. She told Steven she wanted a divorce. Surprisingly, for the first time in 20 years, Steven didn't make any threats of violence against Alyssa and actually said okay. Seizing the opportunity, Alyssa packed up her and her other two daughters' belongings and moved out. Katie told her bio mom Alyssa she was going to stay living with her daddy. So Alyssa left with the younger girls, leaving Steven and Katie in the home together.
That's disgusting.
She didn't know they were having sex, though.
Yes, but it's still, my brain hasn't gotten past it.
Oh, just you wait.
She's still 18, or how long were they living together as a whole before it's just this couple?
She's like 18, 19 at this point. I think she's around 19, like about to turn 19. Because she's only been living with him for a year. Not even.
Okay, yeah.
Because she started staying with him, I think it was August of 2016. And what I'm about to tell you isn't until May of 2017. So it was pretty much right away.
I can hardly wait until her parents, the ones that raised her, find out, because what the fuck?
I love that you just said that, and just know that you just said that. Like, remember that one. But Stephen was still having visitation with his other two minor daughters that he shared with Alyssa. During these visits, his 11-year-old daughter would write about the unusual relationship she was noticing between her dad and her big sister, Katie. Then one afternoon in May of 2017, Alyssa was cleaning and found her 11-year-old daughter's journal. Being a nosy parent, she cracked that bad boy open, expecting to see the normal journal entries of a typical 11-year-old. But Alyssa had her knees nearly knocked out from beneath her. I'm going to quote some of the things that Alyssa read from her daughter's diary. Katie's pregnant. Dad's.
Andrea! You can't just drop it on somebody like that. I'm still grappling with the father-daughter relationship.
Oh, it gets so much worse. Dad says they feel like couples. Did they get a little too drunk that night? My dad is a slut. That's one entry.
Oh, she's 11?
Uh-huh. Oh, dude. I was sitting here reading these like, I am so grateful my kids didn't talk like this. But another entry was, he's Satan. He's fucking Satan. He'll go to hell, but he won't be the one getting tortured. He'll be the one torturing people. Wait 1 second. If he's Satan and Katie's a human, then the baby will be half demon?
This is a weird-ass journal if I have ever...
Alyssa called Steven to confront the disturbing journal entry. She wants to confront it head on. Surely the 11-year-old has misunderstood something, right?
Yeah, like she's pregnant, but it's not her pa's sister thing.
Right. I don't feel like it should be a surprise to anyone when it's confirmed that the father-daughter couple found out that Katie was now in fact pregnant with her bio dad, Steven's baby. And Katie's little sisters were told by their father to start calling Katie their new mommy.
Mom.
Yep. She's not their big sister anymore. She's mommy. Alyssa lost her ever-living mind like any normal person would.
Mm-hmm.
She immediately hung up the phone and contacted the police and reported the incestuous relationship.
And here's the proof.
Shockingly, just a police report was made. A magistrate was like, hey, throwing some advice out there to the father-daughter couple. You guys should stay clear of each other.
I think it's a little late for that.
But, ready for this one, Claire?
No.
I got about 2 or 3 more twists before we get to the real craziness.
The uncle's involved.
But since Steven was divorced from Alyssa now, he was free to remarry. Bio dad Steven married his bio daughter Katie in 2017 in Parkton, Maryland, complete with a marriage license that conveniently left out the tiny detail that the bride and groom were actually father and daughter. If that isn't enough to make you ask what the fuck, this little mind-blowing detail might. Steven's mother and Katie's adoptive parents, Anthony and Kelly, attended the father-daughter nuptials. Before you ask, when it came time for does anyone object part of the ceremony? No. No one spoke up.
Okay, first off, if you were attending that wedding, and I don't know why the fuck you'd attend it to begin with, what exactly do you think your verbiage would be? You just raise your hand. I thought this was father and daughter, and I thought he was going to be walking her down the aisle, not they'd be down the aisle. I feel like everybody was darty-eyed.
They were, but I think that Anthony and Kelly, the adoptive parents, were scared they're losing.
They already did. They lost. She's gone.
Her dad is now their son-in-law because they're now married, and they even all posed in a group photo.
Is it a shifty eye one?
No, they all look happy.
This was not Maryland. I can tell you which state this sounds like, and it's not Maryland.
It is Maryland. It is
Mm-mm.
not West Virginia. But they all posed for a group photo to celebrate with the very heavily pregnant Katie and her now husband dad. On September 1st, 2017, so to put that in perspective for your timeline, she started staying with them in August of 2016, and by September 1st of 2017, Katie and Steven are married, and she gave birth to a baby boy.
Do you think he's really given up his infant biting ways?
Well, Katie and her bio dad husband, Steven, would name their baby boy Bennett Kieran Pladl. Shock came for the newlyweds and new parents when they received a knock on their door. It was the police. By January 2018,
they're a little slow to catch on to this one.
Katie and Steven, who were staying in Wake County, North Carolina with Steven's mother, were arrested. They were extradited back to Virginia on charges of incest with adultery, and contributing to delinquency. Following Steven's release on bond, he was remanded to his mother's custody in Knightsdale, North Carolina. Katie, she remained in custody until later being released on bond.
Was she put into her father's custody?
Sort of, but it was the adoptive father. She was released on bond and she returned to her adoptive parents in Connecticut. So Steven's in North Carolina, she's in Connecticut. And the judge ordered that Steven and Katie were not allowed to have contact with each other. The custody of baby Bennett would be handed semi-permanently over to Steven's mother in Knightsdale, North Carolina. So you got that?
Speaking of semi-permanent, I've had the same stink face for like the last little bit, and I'm not sure if it's going to be semi-permanent.
It's going to be permanent. After the preliminary trial, Steven's attorney, which I don't normally name attorneys because I feel like there's a lot of names in this case, but I'm going to name this son of a bitch, Rick Friedman II, maintained that his client's relationship with Katie was consensual, emphasizing that she was an 18-year-old woman.
Yeah, but you know what? He has to defend his client, and I'm sure he was digging around for... Yeah.
Hold on. He even further asserted that Steven had been head over heels in love with his daughter and that love outweighed the issue of them being biologically related, citing Steven's marital troubles as a factor.
What?
He sort of blamed the deteriorating marriage between Alyssa as the reason for falling in love with his adult daughter.
What?
Exactly. So the father and daughter's incestuous relationship received international attention. During this time, and while having her adoptive parents kind of talk some sense into Katie, she decided to tell Steven over the phone that she did not want to continue their relationship. Katie and Steven's marriage was annulled in February of 2018, leaving Steven enraged. This couldn't all be for nothing. In reality, it was the same pattern he had with Alyssa. His unhealthy, controlling behavior simply transferred from his wife to his wife-daughter. The whole, if I can't have you, then no one will mentality. Steven's mental unraveling was accelerating. He obsessively Googled himself and Katie. He was hungry for the news coverage. His neighbors in North Carolina said they would see him pacing outside at night with a rifle. Mm-hmm. On April 11th, Steven told his mom he was going to take baby Bennett up to Connecticut to drop him off with Katie. Steven loaded up a blue minivan and drove from...
I thought that they're not supposed to have contact.
Okay, and I thought that you're not supposed to have sex with your daughter, but Steven does whatever he wants. Mm-hmm. He loaded up in a blue minivan and drove from North Carolina to his estranged daughter wife, Katie's adoptive parents' house. The night before he decided on the spur-of-the-moment road trip, Steven reportedly slept in the same room as Bennett with his rifle propped up against the crib like a twisted guard dog.
What is he guarding the baby from?
I don't know.
It should be guarded from him.
But Steven didn't tell Katie or her adoptive parents that he was headed their
Of
way.
course not.
He just showed up outside their front door. But Steven didn't get out of the van. Instead, he parked across the street and waited. Steven knew that when Katie lived with Kelly and Anthony, she and her adoptive father, Anthony, would drive out to go visit his mother, so her adoptive grandmother, and they would help her by cleaning her house and just kind of looking after her, being a good son and granddaughter. And like clockwork, Anthony and Katie emerged from their home and hopped in Anthony's pickup truck. Away they went, not realizing they were being followed by Steven.
Is he jealous, thinking there's another daughter relationship?
No, I think he was just mad that she broke up with him. Anthony brought his pickup truck to a stop at a stop sign when Steven pulled up alongside him, rolled down his window, and opened fire on the pickup truck with an AR-15 style rifle. Bystanders immediately called 911, which they are heartbreaking 911 calls to listen to, and described the blue van and the driver as well as the situation as it quickly unfolded. The van sped away, and a firefighter who witnessed the shooting was one of the many who called 911 to get help for Katie and Anthony. But sadly, both 56-year-old Anthony Fusco and the adoptive daughter that he loved and raised, 20-year-old Katie, were fatally wounded. Katie and Anthony were each struck multiple times, specifically in the head and upper torso. They were pronounced dead at the scene. That was in Connecticut. So now what? 43-year-old Steven, being the grown-ass man that he is, calls his mommy. He confessed to her that he just killed his daughter wife, Katie, and her adoptive father, Anthony. His mom was horrified. But then his confession wasn't done. He told her that he'd also killed his and Katie's 7-month-old son, Bennett.
Oh.
He further explained to his mother that she did not want to find the baby. She didn't need to see that, but she needed to call the police. He instructed his mother to tell the police to go out to the house that he was living in with his mother in North Carolina, that there was a key left under the front doormat at the house, and inside of one of the closets that they would find the remains of his and Katie's 7-month-old son, baby Bennett. Mortified at what her son was confessing to her, she did as he asked, and she called 911. I also listened to that 911 call. It's very sad. The police drove out to Steven's house in North Carolina, and sure enough, there was a key under the doormat. Police entered the home, and there in the closet, they found baby Bennett was carefully wrapped in a blanket, staged for someone to find his remains. 7-month-old Bennett Steven Pladl was in fact dead.
Oh.
A manhunt was underway for Steven and his blue van. His son was found in North Carolina, believed to have been killed April 10th, and Katie and Anthony were shot and killed the following day on the 11th in Connecticut. So eventually, Steven's blue van is discovered in Dover, New York. He was sitting in the front seat dead from a single self-inflicted gunshot wound. An autopsy later confirmed baby Bennett was suffocated by Steven. It appeared he squeezed him to death.
Oh.
Also, on a sad note, it was later discovered in a journal entry of Katie's. She admitted she didn't feel like she had a choice but to go along with the moves that Steven was putting onto her before the sexual advances began. The grooming Steven did doesn't get much more obvious. He was a predator. And just when you think this nightmare ended, Lifetime decided to make a movie about it called Forbidden Dying for Love.
Ugh.
I did try to watch it. It is on Hulu. It was pretty awful acting. I didn't make it through.
Why would you want to watch it play out?
Well, I wasn't sure. I was just curious.
You weren't sure if you wanted to see that?
Well, pretty much, yeah. But friends of Katie's called the movie exploitative, and I quote, because nothing says healing like watching your murdered friend portrayed by D-list actors on basic cable. I was like, ouch.
Yeah.
And to close out this episode, so what do we learn from the Pladl family saga? We learn that sometimes the family tree shouldn't have branches that loop back into the trunk. That love and obsession are not the same thing. And that when someone waves not just one red flag, but an entire parade of red flags, we need systems strong enough to intervene before tragedy strikes. But that is Steven Pladl, and happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy your family, but not too much.
Yeah. Smash the potatoes, not your relatives.
Ew.
Thank you for listening to Homicide Hobbies. I'm Claire.
I'm I'm Andy.
Follow us each week to get your fix of the atrocities that occur in true crime. And don't forget to tell people about us and rate us if you like us. But don't rate us if you didn't. Just change the channel.